Guru Offering mandala and requesting for the teachings. Bodhicitta motive. Indra and so forth who act towards Dharma. I will here explain the Buddha is toward the cause of the march. Peace and happiness, please come forth here to listen to languages of the celestials, the yakshas and humans and so forth, whatever language there are of the beings. I will explain Dharma in all of them for the welfare of all kind mothers. For attaining that, I will here listen to the sublime teaching. So as regards the teachings, the sublime teaching to be listened to is the very spiritual summary of all the teachings of the Buddha, the very tradition of for the fortunate person to go toward Buddhahood, which has the three distinct attributes, the four great attributes, and as regards diligence and concentration has been completed. Now we are on the fourth. In the entity of the karma divided, as realization, the means of generating the wisdom realizing such instructing to strive at generating that wisdom. There are these three sub-paths to that. Explaining the text of the chapter of which first showing which had general meanings and branch meanings, and generally with regards to term, unlike other chapters, with regards to the refutation. Few words, but within one few words of where so many things are compacted and included, therefore it is difficult. Of the stages of practice here in the present chapter, because it's mainly explaining the presentation of the antagonist and the debate, and there are their perspectives, and then debating against them, therefore to the assertion on the other side. So these to differentiate between in the wording of the other person in the debate and what is the actual word that pertains to the explanation. Therefore, to listen to, and especially with other chapters, most of them with regards to the practice of the contact part. Therefore, those who are not studying the major texts of dialectics, there is not perhaps any part they would not understand with the earlier chapters. So the general view, and especially the view of the glorious Prasangiga consequential Trinity, and that in your own view, and as regard presenting the other opponent's view, there are many various opponents or the person in the debate. Such as those within the Buddhist tenet, those of the materialists, and then their mind only, and then therefore, unless we apply the outline according to the wording itself of the verses, and then yesterday, from the beginning part, some of the verses, the explanatory commentary on the wording I've tried, whether it has become clear. I'm quite doubtful. Those who have the text, there's nothing they would not understand. What here understand is those who have studied major texts, or those who haven't text, but rather everyone should be able to understand. This is my hope. This, I think, it's quite difficult. Even if I try, it's difficult. And therefore, yesterday, a slide in a very convenient way, I've tried seem to have become more difficult. This is what I thought. Afterwards, sometimes what I've said I'm not able to understand. With the chapter on subject matter, how it is presented, is with the wisdom realized to generate wisdom realized emptiness, and in order to realize emptiness, you need to establish the meaning of the emptiness. When you establish the meaning of the emptiness, then you special exponent and the Sutran together, Sutta follow. These two are referred to as the two materialist and the two are realist, and then how the discussion is presented here is with regards to the discernment, realizing the suchness of the phenomena, and then as regards what is to be the afflictive through many citations from Buddha and through reason. This is how it is established. When that is being established, in the verses here is the very basis to be examined, that needs to be researched into, that very basis as regards that truth, that basis of examination. Ultimate truth and the deceptive truth. There are these two truths, and with regards to the ultimate truth and deceptive truth, these two the ultimate truth, this is mentioned in other non-Buddhist tenets, but regarding these two truths as regards both non-Buddhist and Buddhist, there's various ways. So Shantideva first presents the divisions of the truth, and then when the among the Buddhists, those who are the materialists, the realists who profess the material existence of things, then what they presented, and then to them the response and are given through that way, the refutation of the other side's viewpoint. So the future, this is how text goes, and then later on, there is the refutation of the view non-Buddhist that concerns the establishing of the great vehicle as a teaching, general teaching of the Buddha. Therefore, wisdom where only establishing emptiness is the presented, but rather this chapter, although in wisdom it is related what had in the earlier time have been debated and controversy and so forth. Deva has responded to therefore, unlike other texts of the middle view, through various stages, many things are included here in this present chapter. Therefore, with the present of the four Buddhist tenets, and especially with regards to dialectical danger of getting confused. When these are being explained here, two truths, and with regards to these two truths, by doing studies, and so forth, and when traversing on the grounds of God among those persons, the practitioner of the yogi, and then there's the general, ordinary, worldly. Ordinary worldly doesn't and the teaching system they do not consider to be the main with regards to the higher and lower levels of the mind, how each one outshines. These are being explained here one after another. This is person. Very much subject to perishing in the Tibetan only and so forth. So it refers to person who is designated on against aggregates. Went through according to the wording of the Gyaltsab-Tamarinchan's commentary. Together, perhaps might have become more difficult as we continue, and then the verses that we covered yesterday. If to this, I will explain them briefly. Seem to have been read wrongly yesterday. The deceptive and the ultimate, these are the two truths. Verse number 2, in Buddha's teaching, tradition, when the presentation of to the other division with the name as a truth, there's no such thing. So therefore, realize emptiness through that personal perspective. It is true, therefore it is truth. So therefore, in terms of regards to the more existence of the base, truth and the way of truth in the context of four. Truth, there are two different ways of explaining with regards to that is the presentation of samsara and beyond, how during samsara truth, why it is used The word in meaning it stays to be true. That is the one meaning of truth. Change to be the saying that is true. And then other truth, meaning of truth, meaning that is non-deceptive. Such meanings of the word truth. With regards to the then with regards to the object, and subject of the object and subject, even in the modern scientists, they talk much about object and subject. Why that is so is because everyone looks at on all three aspects of that there asserted to be inherently existent. This is what the other side, and for them, the middle view proponent gives the response, the form, sound, and so forth, the five objects, they are directly seen. Aren't they truly existent? Aren't they existent at all? So next line, form and so on, established by direct valid condition or rarely by renown, not by valid condition. The example given is next line, that is foul, just as the unclean and so on are renowned as clean and so on. Therefore the form, sound and so forth, these objects which are directly seen are established to be so by the renown of the worldly convention, and the other are merely imputed by the conceptual thought and not faulted by other nominal valid condition. So, but in the actual mode of existence of these things, form and so forth, they do not exist from their own part or inherently. That is not the way how their mode of existence is to be established, even in terms of the worldly convention alone. Then what is unclean? The woman's body being unclean and to be considered to be clean by the worldly convention. And the very measure of the renown of the holy convention, by that measure things does not have to be asserted to be existent from their own side and existent from their power. So when this is refuted by the fallacy by the Buddha's words, then the Buddha is showing that the component things being impermanent, doesn't the Buddha in that context teaches things exist truly, and the response for that is verse number 7, line 1 and 2, the only ones whose minds are not toward the middle view, for them to have their mind directed toward the highest view of the Trinity, the protecting God. Buddha has shown component phenomena to be impermanent for the time being, not in the definite. Therefore, impermanence, being moment by moment, from its own existence to be existent, doesn't have to show moment by moment. Why that is so is because when one examines the phenomena, the momentariness itself does not exist either as a single entity or as many entities. So through the reasoning of one and many, single and many, the impermanent to be the ultimate mode of existence of things is refuted in that way. And for that again there is the, if that is so, verse number 7, line 2 and 3, next part. Then even in deceptive truth, the vast, to be vast and impermanent is what is in the morning, it is seen in the evening, in the worldly one, in the worldly perspective. So why wouldn't, so the impermanent things and so forth, by the nominal or valid cognition they are seen, and how they are seen, it doesn't contradict with the way things are. How that is so, according to the worldly convention, what that means, that is in accordance with the worldly renown, that is relative to that. It is not like that. If it is something other than that, then the women to be unclean would be faulted by the worldly convention as seen as clean. So similar to that, the illusion like Buddha, to be offering illusion like offering that activity or accumulating merit would become feasible. If the worldly ones are like illusions, then when they die, how would they be reborn? Next verse, page number 120, verse number 9. Then when the factors are complete, the illusions would be verse number 10, verse 9 and 2. The illusion is when the spectators' eyes are charmed and so forth. Then the illusion would, when the factors are gathered, illusion would appear. When the factors are gathered, then there will also be similarly rebirth. The rebirth that is produced by karma and reflections, like with illusion. When the factors gather, there's illusion. Likewise with rebirth, when the factors for rebirth are complete, then are gathered, then the rebirth also would occur. But then the other side say that the illusion is of short duration, whereas the rebirth is such long duration. Therefore, there is a difference of the what is one is true and one is not true. If that is the what the other side says, then the response to that through that. If they say that the sentient beings are truly existent because illusion is short-term, whereas the sentient beings' birth and death and rebirth is such long duration, therefore sentient beings are truly existent. If they say that, then the response to that is then with the dream and illusion, there would have to be a difference of some dreams being true and some being false, because therefore then there is the debate about if there have been negativities, negative karma accrued in killing an illusory person, verse number 11, but there would not be negativities in illusory person without mind, because there's no mind. Since there's no mind with illusory, with someone with illusory mind, line 3 of verse 11, so it doesn't mean that the illusory person with the mind, but rather it means with regards to the sentient beings, they have a mind that is appearing but not truly existent. So such appearing but not truly existent illusory like a mind, when you do benefit, there's a merit. If you do harm, so forth, there will be negativities. There would be no inflexibility. There is no fallacy with that. Verse number 11. Why illusory person does not have mind is because when the illusory producer mantra charm and the substance to taint the spectator's eyes and so forth, and thus to the illusory person to make the mind, the ability to produce mind in the illusory production is not there. There's no ability from the magician part to produce a mind. Reason from various factors that illusion too are various. There's not anywhere a single factor able to generate all. Verse number 12, page 121, text 1. So this very illusion which is produced through various factors, there are various illusions, because the causes are various, therefore the results would be various. So likewise, for the various results, there would have to be various causes. One cause would not produce various results. So that is, there is not anywhere a single factor able to generate all. One single factor to produce all results, that is not to be found anywhere. And then likewise, with regard to the presentation of the samsara and beyond that, there are to separate, there is the debate put by others. Then here mostly in the verses, the response is given. The actual calm is presented in the commentaries, otherwise in the verses one wouldn't know where it is. Verse number 13, if the ultimate is nirvana, samsara, according to that, Buddha too would be samsara. So what would Bodhisattva practices do? Then in the assertion of the middle view, the nirvana, there are several divisions of nirvana presented in the middle view, and then birth and aging, and so on. There are devoid of inherency. This is called the natural nirvana. Natural nirvana that is devoid of birth and aging, so forth. So such a natural nirvana, and one side, and the other is the what is samsara, which is subject to birth and aging, so forth. If these two things are together, then the verse number 13, if the ultimate is nirvana, the aggregates and the birth and aging, if the deceptive is the samsara and so forth, then why the birth and aging that is deceptive is samsara, and the birth and aging that is of the ultimate nature is the nirvana, the ultimate natural nirvana, then according to that, Buddha too would be samsara. In the Sotantika system, there would there's assertion that the attaining of nirvana by Buddha, there is the nirvana with the remainder, meaning with the remainder of the earlier aggregates before becoming enlightened. So there's no, wow, so what would Bodhisattva practices do? Verse number 13 now, there's no fallacy with that. The response, verse 14. If the continuity of factors do not cease, illusion too would revert. When the factors continue to cease, even the conventional samsara will not occur. If what produces illusion, if the factors are discontinued, then the illusion too would continue. Likewise, with regards to the continuity of the death and rebirth and so forth, when their causes ceases, then even in conventional, the death and rebirth, birth and death would not occur. So the difference between the ultimate nirvana and the nirvana, these two being differentiated and giving a response, that is the meaning of the verse 114. Otherwise there would be the assertion by others that the Buddha would as well be circling in samsara, cannot be reflected anyway. The very contaminated action and the impure thoughts, the afflictions, when they are finished or expired, then their result, which is samsara, would also expire, would finish off. So that being so, that very which is the nature of death, birth, rebirth, and death, and upon that there is no true existence. That there is, therefore, there is a nirvana to be achieved. So when the factors for samsara ceases, then the cycle of samsara of death and rebirth would also cease. So this was what we have completed up to yesterday. Then here today, what is to be newly started is the verse number 14, which is the refuting of the assertion of Chitta Martin on the tenet, bottom of page 50 text, which is two parts, expressing the assertion of refuting that, and verse number 15. If the mistaken awareness too is not existent, what would perceive the illusion? So this very verse number 15, this line, these two lines in the Tibetan, in some Tibetan commentaries, the word is if there is illusion. Whereas in the Indian present Sanskrit text, the word is when. So if the mistaken awareness too is not existent, what would perceive the illusion? So when, if it's a hypothetical thing, so there's no difference between the two, what would perceive the illusion? If things do not exist inherently, then the mind that perceives the illusion also would have to be not inherently existent. If that mind is not inherently existent, then that mind would be non-existent. This is what other sides say. Therefore, the illusion, which mind would perceive to which mind it would appear. That is the debate point. If the mistaken awareness true is not existent, what would perceive the illusion? By the example of illusion, all things to be proven as not inherently existent. To establish that, first one can establish what is an illusion, that example, at what time that very mind which perceives the illusion become non-existent, then the person who sees the illusion, there's no person who sees the illusion, there's no mind which sees the illusion. So the argument brought by other side is that if something exists, it must exist inherently. So this is in the deeper core of their thinking. Therefore, they debate on that basis. If things doesn't exist, it doesn't exist. If things doesn't exist inherently, it doesn't exist at all. That is. So then, for that, similarity of argument is given. And then first is the similarity of the argument, verse number 15, line 3rd and 4th. When there's no illusion with you, then what would be perceived? In your system as well, the external phenomena appearing and how they appear, they do exist, and the external things do not exist. So the mind which perceives the illusion, if things exist in that manner as it appears, then there to that mind the things exist as externally in material entity. So that being so, there are external phenomena to be perceived, they do exist, then the external things must exist, but because there isn't such thing, therefore things are like illusion, there's nothing that perceives that. If there's none, then what would be perceived? Both the object and the subject, though appears externally, but they do not exist as they appear, so they become non-existent. Therefore, if something doesn't exist inherently, there will be nothing at all. And likewise, if something doesn't exist externally, then there would also be the thing not existing. This is the similarity of argument put back to the other side. The middle view proponents, with regards to the middle view, looking at the middle of the mind only perspective, when the middle view look at that, then the mind only thinks that if things don't exist to external, then there's a way of existing differently. So likewise, the mind only which gives the assertion that if things doesn't exist inherently, they do not exist at all, then this same angle of reasoning is applied back to them. So the object, when what object is perceived, the form and so forth, there will be no mind perceiving that. So this is then both the object and subject becomes non-existent. This is the argument put back, because things as they appear, they do not exist, so it cannot present it to be existent. Then the refuting or rejoinder to that verse number 16, if it exists as other manner existent, that aspect will be very in mind, then the response given to that is, by the other side, the form and sound and so forth, the objects and things, they do exist. The other side says that they do exist. It is not that they don't exist. When if it exists as other manner existent, they say that. How that is so? That aspect would be verily the mind. The mind only says that. The very mind which perceives the form, sound, and so forth, which is in the entity, in the substance of the mind, that is not separate from the valid awareness perceiving the form and so forth, which is very much part and the substance of the mind. So there are the form and sound and so forth, they are very much the mind itself. This is what the mind only brings as an argument back. So against that, the external things do not exist by themselves, that they do exist separately, their form and so forth, and very much the substance of the mind, their form and so forth, are very much existent as a substance of the mind. This is what is normally known about the view of the mind only, that all phenomena are within the substance of the mind perceiving them. So that such a illusion-like thing that appears, the external phenomena devoid of that, or other than that, that is not in the external existence as material, but very much as substance of the mind, such as form, sound, smell, and so forth. Those such objects are form, sound, smell, and so forth, which produces, which is the mind, which mind sees, perceives these two. If it exists, next line 3 and 4, verse 16, when the mind is illusion, what is seen by what? That external thing, things, if it is very much the substance of the mind, then it is illusion. That being existent is illusion. At what point, at what time, anything that is perceived, which mind sees that object at what point, but there's no such mind that perceives, therefore the object as well is mere imputation, mere fiction. It is not there in its material entity. The non-dual consciousness not seen by any and refuting self-knower. So the heading of the verse 16, line 3 and 4, the non-dual consciousness not seen by any, that consciousness that is non-dual of the object subject, nobody has seen that consciousness, so whether it is existing or not. But if the answer is that is not seen, it is seen, then the mind that sees, apparently that mind is refuted. That is in the Parmanavartika and so forth. There is the refutation of that. With the mind only says that there, with the mind or consciousness, there's two, that is extrovert looking at other phenomena, and the one which is introvert looking at its own mind, and in that way they assert and consciousness called self-knower, that there is the object as well, two types which are perceived by the consciousness that is extrovert, and the inner object that is to be perceived by the mind introvert, called self-knower. So the former is the mind extrovert that sees form and sound and so forth. So this, so to refute that, there's refuting through the Buddha's words, and refuting through through reasoning. There are the many ways refuting by the citation, refuting by reasoning, reasoning for the existence of knowing, refuting the assertion that imputedly existent or truly existent things. First is the refuting by citation that self-knower being existent is not correct. Even in Buddha's teachings, there is clearly mentioned that the self-knower is not existent. Verse number 17, also the universe protecting guide has said, the mind does not see the mind, just as a sword's blade does not cut itself. Verse number 17, page 122, text 1. The protecting guide of the universe, that is the reference to Buddha, it's the name of the Buddha. There are many epithets of the Buddha. There's many occasions Buddha is called as the protecting guide of the universe, like the Buddha says at the time of birth, I am the supreme of the universe. So like that, universe protecting guide is one of the names of Buddha. So Buddha also said, the mind does not see the mind does not see itself. And as an example of that, a sword's blade does not cut itself. There are swords, a sharp blade does not cut its own sharp blade. Like that, with mental consciousness as well cannot see itself. This is what Buddha said. Where Buddha said this is in the Vajrachyuta Sutra. It is mentioned in the Ratna Sutra. It is mentioned. Like the blade of the sword does not cut itself. The mind doesn't cut itself, that is mentioned there. The mind does not see itself, the sword blade does not cut itself. This is what Buddha has taught in that sutra called the jewel on the crown top, or Ratna-Chuta Sutra. Those who assert a thing called self-knower, this mind-only school, with regards to the perceiving aspect, to be perceiving oneself by oneself, the mind perceiving itself, this is what they said. So therefore, what is to be perceived and what perceives, there's no separateness between the two. They would become one entity. That is the case generally with regards to the direct self-knower of the mind-only school. We normally present that as the separate direct perception, but when you look for it, it's very difficult to find that the self-knowing mind of the I consciousness pursuing the form, that self-knower sees both the I consciousness and the object of that I consciousness. So such self-knower of the I consciousness pursuing form is regards to the very object of it, which is the I consciousness pursuing the form. If the question is put, is it the two minds are separate, it would be said no, there's both the perceiver and to perceive to be of separate aspect. There's no separateness of the aspect, therefore it would be difficult to present them to be two isolates or two aspects. Therefore this example becomes the very refuting of that self-knowing mind. The way of perceiving object is similar in that way. Then the second is refuting by reasoning, refuting the analogies and refuting the meaning. The first is refuting the analogy of lamp, the example of a self-knowing mind. The mind-only school presents that example of a lamp and example of a crystal. So as to establish verse number 18, it is like a lamp illuminating perfectly its things. A lamp doesn't illuminate itself since there is no obscuration by darkness. The other side, the mind-only school, how it like a lamp in their perspective, that a lamp itself not only illuminates, removes, dispels the outer darkness, but also the lamp illuminates itself. So as a response to that, a lamp does not illuminate itself since there is no obscuration by darkness. That is the refuting. There is no illuminating of the lamp by itself. Lamp does not illuminate itself. A lamp, how lamp would. So the first two lines are the other's assertion, and line 3 and 4 are the refuting the analogy by the middle view perspective. It's like a lamp illuminating perfectly its things. What it has been compared to, it's just as lamp illuminates itself, the mind also perceives itself. This is so. As a refuting of that, the response given by the middle way school is that lamp does not illuminate itself. Lamp doesn't have the ability to illuminate itself, and also there's no need for doing that. The reason for that is because there's no darkness, because something that needs to be illuminated or to be removed, there has to be darkness, but there is no darkness. Since there's no obscuration by darkness, so there's nothing to be illuminated, nothing to be removed. If a lamp illuminates itself, then as regards in the fundamental root, there is also same line. So there is, anyway, the middle view presents the reasoning. A lamp does not illuminate itself. The reasoning given is because darkness does not obscure itself. If lamp illuminates itself, then darkness would also obscure itself. If darkness obscures itself, then one will not see the darkness, because of being obscured by darkness you do not see a form. But if the darkness itself becomes obscured, then that darkness would become invisible. Then there will be no darkness, just as darkness would not obscure itself. Therefore lamp similarly does not illuminate itself. Verse number 18, last two lines. A lamp does not itself illuminate itself since there is no obscuration by darkness. If there is then there would also be the darkness being obscured darkness. Then the other example is next one, verse number 19. Like a crystal, the blue is rarely dependent on blue. Sapphire blue is not dependent on others. Likewise, some are seen dependent and also some not dependent on others. Verse number 19, page 122, text 1. So, like crystal, blue is rarely dependent on blue. Sapphire blue is not dependent on others. Likewise, some are seen dependent, and also some not dependent on others. Verse number 19. The blue has not risen from a cause. There was no acting on as one's embodiment. Verse number 20. So these are the many words, and they are put into very much crowded wording within this verse and a half. The blue itself to blue does not depend on others. Likewise, some are sin dependent and also some not dependent on others. Verse number 19. Like a sapphire, the very nature of crystal to become blue, that it's by nature is blue. By depending on other, it has not become blue by depending on others. That is the meaning of the first 2 lines of verse 19. Likewise, if it is a white crystal, when it is put on a blue basis, it appears to be blue. It appears as blue. So that crystal to be seen as blue is depending on other, it has become blue. That's one case, and the other without depending on others, that by itself, without depending on others, by natural, it is blue. There are these two like that, there are these two with the form and so forth. All object phenomena to be perceived, it has to depend on other perceivers. For the sapphire to be blue doesn't depend on others. That is naturally blue, like that. The consciousness itself to be perceiving itself doesn't have to depend on other things. So these two examples of analogy are there presented by the other side. Now, as a refuting or response to that, blue has not arisen from a cause. Verse number 20. There's no acting on as one's embodiment. So up to verse number 19 is the assertion by the other side. Then the verse number 20, first line, blue has not risen from a cause. That the blue that has not arisen, for example, with the sapphire, that is naturally blue. It is not something that has not come from causeless, because of being not produced from non-cause. That blue is not because of no cause, therefore that blue it does not act on as one's embodiment. That blue, so the sapphire to be blue, through cause and conditions being dependent on others, it has become blue. Without depending on any factors and causes, the sapphire by itself cannot make it blue. So this is, the wording is quite terse. These verses, wording in the Sanskrit language, these verses are in the Sanskrit, but in the Indian text, with the numbering of the verses, there's nothing given of. Please look at the footnote number 513 on page 122, footnote 513. Although verse 20, perhaps it was not in the Sanskrit manuscript, but was later it was added, or why there's no complete lines, 4 lines to the verse 20. Therefore, in the edition by the Gyuto edition, there is the verse 20, and after 20, there's a straight into 22. Not in between. The 21st has not been inserted, or not even a part of it was not there. So if you look at the wording itself, verse 20, blue has not risen from cold, there was no acting on as one's body. So there's no acting on oneself. Verse 100, the footnote 105 and 13. So there's alternate of the verse 20 is given there. So the sapphire to be blue is because of being dependent on its causes and factors to be blue. So the compounding phenomena to be existing is because of depending on its causes and conditions. Then the refuting of the analogy both of the lamp and crystal haven't completed. Then the next is refuting the meaning, verse number 22. Refuting the meaning or refuting the purport of it. So this part when the self knows that it is existing, the reasoning to prove that by the mind only tenet, the reasonings are being presented by the mind only tenet. The verse number 22, if a consciousness knows and says lamp is illuminating, then what person having known would say awareness is rarely clear? So this is the question being put. If a lamp illuminates, removes, dispels the darkness, the consciousness which perceives the lamp, a person who that person says that lamp is illuminating, this is what the person pursuing the lamp says. That, but for the mind to be saying that it is illuminating, how would there be a way to describe, because self-knower is being refuted here, that the mind that is introvert and knowing itself, that is being refuted. When this is being refuted, then the mind is just mere clear knowing how it perceives things, which thing knows about its perception. When that consciousness is not perceived by any, it would be meaningless to say it's clear or not clear, like describing the gate of a baron's door to verse number 23. That the mind being clear is not seen by anyone, then whether it's clear or whether it illuminates, whether it doesn't illuminate, it's like, that talk is like describing the gate of a barren woman's daughter, and the In the Indian text, the word instead of gait is the manner of dance. So there's no meaning in saying the example, and more so the earlier verse, what it means would say, if the mind itself doesn't see, then other substance or the mind has to see that, then it would become endless. That is very true. The mind that perceives the eye consciousness that perceives the form, and another mind that perceives the consciousness perceiving the blue, and another mind behind that perceives that earlier mind. In this way, there will be endless. Therefore, being consciousness, being a mind, that there has to be another perceiver, consciousness to perceive. If it is not a consciousness, if it is another substance, then there is a fallacy of being endless. So therefore, the mind only is a presentation of the mind called seven knower is like that. If that is the case, then the eye consciousness perceiving form to be saying, to talking about the seven knower perceiving that eye consciousness is similar to the talk of a barren woman's daughter being described about her gait and how her manner of dance and so forth. There's no meaning in doing so. That is in order to establish the mind on this need. This is what the mind on this is, in between we shall have tea and break. Offering mandala in gratitude of the teachings. Offering of the tea, then go to the in the next session, after the break, when they start teaching, take some of my, turn the camera around to show my face. The break go to break will la. Well, then we'll continue without break. No. Oh, sorry, yep, I'm good. I'm good.